Alright, ladies and gentlemen, your first vocal comic for the night is a friend of mine. He is a solid acting staple at both 2nd Street Theater and the Cascade Theater Company. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Knowles, everybody.
Oh, thanks. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody okay? Yeah? Good? Wait? Yeah, good. Like he said, I'm a local guy. I grew up here in Bend. And I don't know if you guys are hip to this, but we have a pretty isolated culture here in Bend. Pretty isolated from the world. You can look around the audience right now and count the number of black guys you see here. Not a whole lot. So when you see one in town, there's kind of a novelty to it. And I'm kind of embarrassed to say I react to that. So if I'm in town, let's say I'm walking downtown and I see a black guy, my immediate reaction is this. And that's just the child in me. It's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know these existed, right? But then, the adult in me is like, well, wait a minute, you can't do that. You can't let him see you staring at him. So the next thing I do is this. Oh. But then there's the rational part of my brain. It's like, you can't have him see you not looking at him. So finally, the entire episode turns into this. I have to try and ignore him the same amount as I ignore everybody else. The trials and tribulations of living in Bend, Oregon. I have a friend who's in a monogamous relationship. She's a female, and she's trying to not have a kid, right? And the method she's using is an IUD. And she was telling me about this, because it's just the kind of conversations me and my friends have. And she said that it's this little copper T that you insert up inside of you, and that somehow keeps you from getting pregnant. And the reason I say somehow is because they don't actually know how the copper T works. It just keeps you from getting pregnant. Which, with my little sciencey brain, I think to myself, well, why did they stick it up there to begin with? If they don't know how it works? Were they just going through substances and letters of the alphabet and trying to figure out, well, the wooden U didn't work, let's try a copper T. Oh, success! I don't really think that's how science is supposed to work. And I think about stuff a lot, as you've probably picked up on. I was thinking about how words are weird. Different weird words. And the one that I've been mulling over lately is the word virginity. Because it means something very, very specific and very odd to me. It means the lack of a specific experience. And I can't think of any other word that means it's the lack of this particular experience. And it's particularly odd to me because we covet that, or at least a certain population of a certain portion of the population does. They covet this virginity, this lack of an experience. But you wouldn't do that with any other thing. There isn't a word that means the lack of ever having a steak. There's no such word that means steak virginity, right? And you wouldn't, like if I was, say, a steak virgin, and somebody offered me a steak, and it looked delicious, I wouldn't say, no, I'm waiting for the perfect steak. The best steak you've ever had is still the best steak regardless of when you eat it. There's no reason to wait. I was, as I noted earlier, I'm kind of a sciencey guy. I was listening to a science podcast, and they were talking about, they were studying sexual experiences. And they said that they had discovered that the part of the brain that reacts to nipple stimulation is the same part of the brain that reacts to vagina stimulation. Which, once again, going back to the other thing, I think to myself, well, how did they test that? They just have some, yeah, exactly. They have some girl come in and go, okay, yeah, we got you all hooked up to the monitors. We're all ready over here. Yeah, okay. How was that? Yeah? How about this? Same area, huh? What do you know? Hooray for science! Bring in the next girl. I'm an atheist, which means that I don't believe in the existence of a God. It doesn't mean that I push over old people or hit babies. That's a coincidence. What it means is that I don't find the existence of a God, the evidence for a God, compelling. And I think that the evidence that people put forth is a little off-putting to me. Say, for instance, the whole premise of Christianity itself, the idea that a man died for our sins. He paid the price for our sins. And what's the price of our sins? Eternity in hell, right? You have, I don't know, your skin ripped off of you, your eyes boiled, and this happens day in and day out for all of eternity. And they say Jesus paid the price for our sins, right? Well, compared to that, Jesus just had a shitty weekend. He didn't really pay the price for our sins. And I'm an evidence guy, as I said. I believe that you should believe in things before, or you should have the evidence before you believe in things. Not the other way around, believing in things before you have the evidence. And I think that the world would be really weird if it worked where science works like religion. This is my impression of what the world would be like if science worked like religion. This is your captain speaking. We are flying. We're going to be arriving in around 2 hours. And, I wanted to remind the crew and the passengers of this flight to not stop believing in the power of flight, because we'll fall right out of the sky. You don't have to believe in it first. Science works regardless. I watched Saturday morning cartoons when I was a kid. Did anybody remember Saturday morning cartoons? I don't even think they exist anymore because we have things like the Cartoon Network. But you guys remember Captain Planet? Did anybody ever watch Captain Planet? Yeah, there we go. It was this story about these 5 kids that had powerful rings. The goddess of Earth, Gaia, gave them rings. And I think the premise of that entire show is just a little bit weird. That, I have these 5 rings. Earthquakes, hurricanes, love. And I'm going to give them away to people to protect the planet. Who can I give these away to? I know. These preteens. Let's give them the power of a hurricane. I don't see any problem with that. And with the power of these rings, they can't stop an oil tycoon with an earthquake? Are you kidding me? How long does it take you to take the rings away from these kids when they can't stop, say, some polluting bad guy villain with a hurricane? And why does it take them so long to figure it out? Why does it take them a week to go through all these problems and go, I guess we'll just bring out Captain Planet again. He seems to figure things out like that. Why don't they just bring him out to begin with? It'd be a lot more efficient. I remember growing up, parents take weird stands over things. I would go out into the world, and my parents wouldn't see me for all day. And the only reason I knew that I was supposed to come back was the porch light came on, and I had all the freedoms in the world. But God damn it, if I couldn't have a cereal that had sugar in it. The first time I felt like an adult was when I could buy my first bowl of Captain Crunch. Yeah, I know, but now it's great. I'm a very conflicted kind of person. I have some really dark times sometimes, and I'm also a very mathy kind of guy, a very sciencey kind of guy. So that when I start contemplating things like suicide, like I don't really want to live anymore, I'll go out and I'll just drive my car around for a while, because I know statistics and car crashes are the #1 cause of deaths in America. Kind of a roundabout way of doing it. And then eventually when I get bored, I'll just go buy a hamburger, because heart attacks are #2. And that's all the material I have. Thank you very much. Ryan?